Hey everybody, we're back here again with another edition of On Target with Larry Sperano and with Rack of Rack Attack Gamer YouTube channel. And for those of you who've listened to Rack in the past, talking with me, he's very much against any form of gun control, says it's an infringement on the Second Amendment, and President Biden has now announced what the media is calling executive orders on gun control, but they're really executive actions which don't have the force of the law, at least not yet. Now, first of all, Iraq, he's calling for stricter controls, background checks, especially he says at gun shows, which don't require background checks. He says that grips that stabilize pistols turn them into really a form of a rifle. He wants special forms to be filled out on that, et cetera, et cetera. So, what's wrong with some what he calls common sense gun controls?
Yeah, it's all BS. I'd like to just say the words straight out, but I'll just keep it at BS for now. Look, first of all, when you go to a gun show and you try to purchase a weapon, there is a background check. You can't just purchase a weapon at a gun show and that's it. You will have a background check. And then he talked about online purchases, and he was alluding to the same type of thing where you can purchase online and there's no background. It's all nonsense. You can't purchase a gun online without getting a background check. Uh, the purchase that you make from wherever you're making it in the country or wherever you're getting your gun from then gets shipped to an FFL, firearms licensed dealer type thing, and they run the background check. They don't ship it to your house. They ship it to an FFL, and then the FFL, you have to go there to pick up the gun, and they run the background check. So this idea of there's no background checks at gun shows or online purchases is baloney. Okay, and I don't know whether he's stupid enough to not know that, or if they're just being purposely deceitful.
All right, well, what about his call to limit the capacity of magazines? High capacity magazines should be limited, should be banned, according
Well,
to.
it's their straw man that they set up. When they say about hunting or sports shooting, that, oh, you don't need X number of rounds for hunting or sports shooting, you don't need high capacity, you don't need these military style rifles. This is all BS. This is their straw man that they set up. Look, the Second Amendment is for tyranny, to put down tyranny. It is also for putting down an invasion. That's what this is for. So military rifles were on parity when the Second Amendment was written. The military had muskets, farmers had muskets, and everybody had muskets. And that's the way it's supposed to be today. It says it right in the amendment, Second Amendment, which is a right. It is not the government's not granting anything. It's a right inherent into the people that it shall not be infringed. Yet they keep doing it at every step of the point and way.
Yeah, in fact, the president called it impinged rather than infringed. Now, what's the importance of the difference in those words?
Well, they're different meanings. One's a more of a legal type term. Infringement deals with more of the legalities of things as opposed to impinged. Now, I don't know if he did it intentionally or if it's his problems surfacing again or if they actually wrote it into the speech that way.
Yeah, because infringement is in the amendment itself shall not be infringed. Impinge just means to have an impact upon. So if that was purposely used, it was dodging the actual meaning of the Second Amendment. Maybe Joe was just mixing it up as he does many other things. Now, getting back though to the Second Amendment being put in there as a defense against a tyrannical government or an invasion. Now, do you really think that with modern day weaponry and the vast armies technology that modern governments have, that it's going to make any bit of difference having your own firearm, even with a high capacity magazine and a large caliber bullet? I mean, against a modern force of military by a government, you know, it's irrelevant, isn't it, in terms of warding off a tyrannical government domestically or for an invader?
There's a whole bunch involved in that question. First of all, that presupposes that the military is going to be on the side of the government as opposed to the military saying, hey, the government has overstepped its bounds. We're going to stick with the people and the Constitution and the Second Amendment. The military might split, which is one of the reasons why they keep weeding out people from the military that seem to be very patriotic and pro-American and pro-Second Amendment. They're weeding these people out, even up to the top levels, generals and whatnot. They're looking for loyalists in the military. loyalists to the government, loyalists to their tyranny, approaching tyranny, as far as I'm concerned. That the first thing is the military may not go 100% with the government. The military may either some portion of it or a great deal of it come with the people, because it's obvious that getting rid of guns is against the Constitution, which is what these Democrats and everybody else that goes into office swears to uphold. They swear to uphold the Second Amendment, basically, and yet they infringe upon it anytime they want.
All right, a controversial phrase in the Second Amendment is a well-regulated militia.
Yeah, we've
which,
gotten into this before about
yeah,
whether it should be government regulated.
yeah, it sounds like it's a government-regulated militia, does it
Yeah,
not?
that's not the way it was actually written at first. Well, regulation way back when came out, and it meant way back when the word well-regulated meant like well structured, well ready, well prepared. Just a well regulated watch was a watch that kept good time. So it was well set, well ready to go.
And
That's
how
what that meant
and
back
how
at the
how
time.
would
It doesn't.
how would these militia men be well regulated if not trained by the government, trained by professionals?
There's certain militias that train themselves. They go out. They actually go out on trainings. That's the ones that are allowed anymore. That is because a lot of states don't allow militias anymore, which is ridiculous. But whatever. They're supposed to be a people having very well regulated, in other words, well working guns and stuff like that, to be able to put down tyranny or for invasion or anything else like that.
In fact, a number of the founding fathers made a point that
That's right.
that the militia people, they were raised as kids with guns and they were very sharp shooters, and that was a distinct advantage when they fought against the British, and therefore the well-regulated militia meant that they would naturally acquire these skills being on the frontier.
Well, there's so much wrong with what Biden said in his speech. He was saying about, it wasn't always that way. Even way back when they had, some people that couldn't have guns. Well, yeah, maybe people that were in prison.
Or slaves.
I got some quotes from the founding
Excuse
fathers.
me.
Thomas Jefferson: "No free man shall ever be debarred the use of arms." That's a quote from Thomas Jefferson. And there's a whole bunch of quotes I have written here. I don't know if we can actually read them all, but the essence of all these quotes that I have written here, and I could read them. The essence of them is that people, not militias, but people, because people make up the militia. People should have arms. Matter of fact, I think there's actually one that says something like that. If I can find it. Good. Let's see.
All right,
Here.
but Iraq. People also would make the counter argument that that was then, this is now. It's a vastly different landscape out there with these mass murders, these shootings, mass shootings, people having all kinds of armaments now, and it's become a very dangerous society because everybody has a gun. So how do you counter that argument that there's just too many guns out there? People, all kinds of people have too free an access to them, and it makes for a very dangerous and hence unstable society.
The parity between the government and what they have, like you pointed out, their tanks, their Apache helicopters, the missiles, everything else, compared to the people, is a very dangerous parity. We're not on par anymore. All right, and then what they want to do is they want to reduce it even further.
Yeah, but beside that, you can't deny that the number of mass shootings and number of crazies with guns doing violence, horrible things, that keeps increasing. So what do you do about that?
Well, first
You
of
just
all,
let
why
it
is it
happen?
increasing? Why is it increasing? I mean, I personally think that that these things could be set up. False flags. People actually put out somehow, some way. I don't know how. We can get into that. That's a different type of story, but actually meant to go out and do these shootings just so the government can have an excuse to take away the guns.
Well, I know that is one theory that people have, but beyond that, I mean, generally, there's so many guns out there. Now, anybody could own a gun, whether they're well trained or not, whether they know what they're doing. So, should there be no way to curb that, no controls at all?
Now, as far as I'm concerned, the answer to that is yeah, no government control on guns at all. If you got the money, you go purchase the gun, and that's it. And the reason being is because There's too much of this. You open it an inch, and then they take a mile.
The slippery slope argument by the NRA.
Absolutely, and they've been doing it. Even in his speech, says we're going to continue doing this until we get what we want. Basically, that's what he said in his speech.
Well, he also said during the campaign that he was going to take down the NRA, and apparently he's making some opening moves now. But also, there's a lot of hypocrisy here too. Now he's talking about how anybody, could get a gun without filling out a form properly, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I hate to bring this subject up, but Hunter Biden, according to all these reports now that are surfacing finally, even to some extent in the mainstream media, that when he went to buy a gun and filled out his background check paperwork, he failed to disclose that he was a drug addict. So I don't see Joe calling for any arrest of his son in that kind of a situation.
Right, obviously, because the elites and those in power are above the law. That's the way it is right now. It shouldn't be that way, but it is.
All right, also, what about the NRA bumper sticker argument, which I think does have some merit, even though I think a lot of the NRA stuff is, a bit extreme, but a bumper sticker slogan rings true to some extent, maybe a great extent, that when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns.
Well, that's true. However, consider this. We're talking about the NRA, a private organization made by, individuals for the individuals to have gun rights and to monitor the government, et cetera, et cetera. Yet we're talking about a president here saying he's going to go after this organization. He's going to close it down, shut it down, whatever he's saying, right? I don't hear about Twitter. I don't hear that about YouTube. I don't hear that about Facebook, who do all this censoring. Why don't I hear Biden saying, oh, this censoring is so terrible with YouTube and Twitter and everybody. We're going to go after them. We're going to shut them down. I don't hear this.
Yeah,
I hear it on...
He also falsely stated in his announcement about these gun control proposals, that the gun industry was the only industry that cannot be sued. Now, that's not true.
Yeah, that's baloney. It's nonsense. If you want to talk about an industry that can't be sued, it's the vaccine makers that are putting out vaccines to people that are basically rushed out vaccines. These are the ones that can't be sued.
Yeah, well, also, all the social media sites now that are censoring a lot of the content, really can't be sued at this point unless they change some of the protections that they gave them previously, that the government gave them. But, beyond that, getting back to controlling the crazies, controlling the unstable people, controlling the criminals, another point of hypocrisy that's made by those who are critical of Biden and his minions is that all during the summer rioting, neither Biden or Kamala Harris or any of the Democratic proponents for gun control and curbs on violence didn't say a darn thing about the violence this summer in the major cities in the U.S.
Yeah, worse than that. Didn't I, if I remember correctly, I think Harris gave money to bail them out. I'm not even sure if Biden did, but they were bailing out these people that were being arrested from Antifa and BLM.
Also, she said on tape, you could see this on tape, that she thinks the demonstrations, the protests, as she put it, are a good thing. They should continue. They will continue, and she's all in favor of it.
Look, to nutshell this whole thing, the only way people are actually going to understand what's really going on is to understand that there are groups, nefarious groups, that absolutely want America disarmed, whether that be other countries that start with the letter C, or just nefarious, under the cover secret society type groups. And you know what I'm going after here. But they want America disarmed. They want their tyranny. Matter of fact, one of these quotes say about the only reason that anybody would want to disarm Americans would be for tyranny.
Also, my reading on it is that if they go after guns for law-abiding citizens, there's no way they're going to remove the hundreds of thousands of guns that are possessed illegally by criminals and other people across the country. I mean, there's so many out there, so many on the black market, so easy to get one, that when they come for our guns in our homes, there's no way they're going to eliminate those guns from the wrong hands, people that are using them criminally.
what they're doing is they're basically going to set up a very large black market. Guns will be sold on the black market to basically anybody, and that's what they're doing. Matter of fact, it's already kind of began. In the Philippines, they are making these type of guns that are like clones of actual production guns from different companies, and they're making them that are very close to the actual guns. And they've been selling them. I don't know how they're selling them, but they are.
Well, Biden kind of alluded to something like that when he talked about controlling ghost guns, which can be assembled from a kit that they can purchase without any kind of a background check. Now, doesn't that sound like a common sense approach to curbing misuse of guns?
Yeah, I have common sense, so I wipe my ass with that remark. No offense, but that's the way it is. This is nonsense. It's another straw man. This common sense stuff. There's not supposed to be any infringement. You open the door to infringement on the Second Amendment, that can go a long way, and they never stop. So this stuff about common sense, and we're going to save this. You know what? There's crazies in this world. They drive cars. Are we going to ban all cars? Are we going to have a mental background check for people that drive cars? How about knives? The same thing with knives. How about fire? We going to do it for matches and lighters? I mean, there's crazies in this world. They're using this as an excuse. Any crazy can take a knife, a lighter, a cigarette lighter, gas from a gas pump, a car, a truck, a bus, ram people, do whatever. Yeah, I don't hear about background checks or mental health checks on these things. This is an excuse that they're using to get the guns, and
Yeah.
people are eating it up.
There's also the counter argument from a lot of conservatives that the gun laws, as they are now, are not enforced, and especially as we saw during the summer rioting, a lot of people, were just turned loose, even though those who were committing assaults with weapons, including guns. I mean, they were essentially given a tap on the wrist and let go. A lot of no bail situations as well. So the argument there has been for years, and especially so now, that enforce the existing laws that you have and make them stick.
First of all, there shouldn't be any gun laws. I mean, shall not be infringed is quite clear. Leave guns alone.
No. What I'm saying is, if somebody is caught criminally committing an act with a gun, then you throw the book at them rather than give them a light sentence, give them whatever kind of a break that they seem to be getting. The rioting this summer was a prime example. So I mean, that's been an argument for quite a while now, that they really don't crack down on the criminals who use guns and other weapons.
Well, then they should. I mean, they should crack down on somebody that uses a gun to commit a crime. That's for sure. They shouldn't do it for pre-crime, though. We're going to red flag where anybody can have your guns and take away your guns just because somebody says that you might be a problem. I don't hear due process in there. I don't hear facing your accusers. I hear, let's get the guns first, like Trump said, and then worry about due process later, which is nonsense. I don't know who advised Trump, but that was bad on Trump's part.
So what you're saying is that if somebody alerts the authorities that you're unstable, it could be a wife, could be a girlfriend, whoever, could be a boyfriend, could be a neighbor, that's probable cause, that's cause enough for cops to come in and take your guns away from you, even though, and then you're not given due process at all or at a later date.
Perhaps at a later date, but it's not at first, which it should have been done at first. It has to be done at first. Hey, there's this thing called swatting, where gamers on the internet might be playing a game with another gamer on the internet.
Yeah.
They lose, they get mad. So what they do is they call up an authority. They find out where the person is that they just lost their game to. They call up an authority, police or whatever, and say, oh, they have guns in there. They're hurting people in there. They have hostages and all this stuff, and they're very dangerous. And then the police go rush into that house, bust in with guns blazing almost. And there's been instances where regular innocent people have been killed just because the phone call of one idiot on the internet.
Yeah, also cases where a person doesn't know who's breaking in, who's going to rob them, murder them. They may have a firearm, so they pull it out, and the cops, of course, shoot them because they think that this is the bad guy with a gun. When it's really...
Yeah, right. My point with this being is, what's to stop an ex-wife or somebody else like that from just having a malicious intent towards the husband or whatever, and making the phone call saying, oh, he's bad this, and he's threatened me that, and this and that, and it all being nonsense. And then the cops will come into the house, take the guns because of these stupid red flag laws. This is nonsense. There's no due process. Our rights are being eroded away like crazy. First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, it's all over the place. This has to stop. The United States of America has freedoms. We're supposed to be the land of the free, the land of the brave. And somehow this has to stop. We have, as far as I'm concerned, bad people in office that really should not be in office, as far as I'm concerned, for various reasons. They need to be legally and lawfully taken out of office as quick as possible. Impeachment would be a nice way to get rid of Biden very fast.
In the meantime, let me ask you this now. Compared to when you were growing up, compared to even 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, do you feel anywhere near as safe as you once did on the streets?
You know, that question would have been better if you asked me about free. Do I feel as free as I once did? No. The freedom has been eroded away. I don't feel free anymore. I don't feel this is a free country, or we're the land of the free.
Do you feel
up until the late 60s or something around that area, people were able to buy guns through a catalog, have it mailed right to their house, no problem, no questions asked, no background check, no nothing. This is only decades ago, and up until I think it was 1974, you could buy machine guns that way. I mean, or something to that effect. You can buy machine guns and have them mailed to your house. I mean, there was no big deal. And all of a sudden, because of the UN is actually pushing some of this stuff with their small arms acts and whatnot that they want to place upon America. And presidents that go along with it, that's supposed to be looking out for American interests instead of UN interests. So the UN is part of this problem, Small Arms Act and all that.
All right, but again, my question was, do you feel less safe? Apparently you do, because, again, your face is obscured.
Oh, absolutely, but I don't feel, the government knows who I am, I'm sure. I mean, they have a million ways to Sunday to figure out who I am, so I ain't so much worried about the government. They already know who I am. What I'm worried about is these brainwashed minions that the government has produced out there through their media, their brainwashing tactics, their propaganda that they seem to be running. It's coming through the mainstream media, all the regular mainstream news channels that are pushing out this brainwashing type of propaganda material. These are the people that ate it up. Those are the ones that I'm worried about.
And some of them with guns.
Perhaps. But you know what? I'd say they have a right to have guns, but I should have a right to have a gun too, just to make sure that they can't do it without me answering back.
You know, you could be also accused of being, in the Wild West. You know, that world is long gone in a modern, complex society, especially with population density. None of us could any longer be tolerant of a Wild West atmosphere. What about that argument?
Yeah, that's all nonsense. Look, there's this word that I often use when we do these type of videos, democide. Democide was coined by a University of Hawaii professor, and what it regards is the murdering of the population of a country by its own government. This has been gone through history many, many times. In just the 20th century, 262 million people were murdered by their own government after being disarmed. So 262 million, you're going to tell me you're worried about 10 here and 5 there and 50 here and et cetera. I worry about the 262 million if they continue to disarm us.
Well, the argument there would be that those were tyrannical countries, you know.
That's right. Very good. Yes, right where we're headed.
You're saying that makes your point, then, is what you're saying.
Thank you, yes.
All right, well, thank you, Rack of Rack Attack Gamer YouTube channel, for some very opinionated opinions about gun control and how we're headed in a wrong direction, which will actually end up being a less safe society if Joe Biden and others who are advocates of gun control with increasingly strong measures get their way. You have the final word before we say goodbye.
My final word is we should actually put in the link on the bottom of your channel the quotes, the link to the quotes from the founding fathers that basically say we should have guns. It's the people's right to have guns, not the militia's, the people's, because the militia is made of the people. But we should put that link in the bottom so that people could read the quotes for themselves.
Rack Attack of Rack Attack Gamer YouTube channel. Thank you once again, and thank all of you out there. And once again, we bid you farewell, good luck, and to stay safe, stay curious, and stay informed. That's one way, perhaps the only way, of staying free. See you later.